of a 3-game suspension. And granted, Philadelphia moves on. Kai Wagner is playing in the MLS of the Eastern Conference Finals.
Potentially game 3. No, is it a 3-game series? No,
it's one.
It's not. Yeah,
I know it's tough.
Oh, it's
hard to follow.
It's tough to keep up with all the new rules for playoffs. But yeah, now it's 1 and
so
done.
it'll change next.
And there's overtime, by the way, before PKs.
Very good.
Yeah,
So he could be playing in the MLS Cup final. Excuse me. Still, his season's not over. You think about the hard line for Taxi Funtas. You think about the hard line for Van Zier. And then Wagner only gets 3 games. Philadelphia's out there bitching and moaning because they think Bobby Wood should have been suspended too. And meanwhile, we're left to speculate, well, does that mean what Bruce said was worse than what Kai Wagner did?
Well, we'll never know. And we will never know.
I don't think we will never. I think we will know. I think we will know.
But it didn't get to a point where it could have simply just been a suspension. Like, we wouldn't have known that because there was nothing said for, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and then he resigned. If there was an investigation and then there was a determination that what was said or what was done was inappropriate, then the league may have come down and said, okay, you're suspended for 3 or 5 games, whatever it may be, whatever it was, whatever they determined, that the fact that it never even got to that point because there was no transparency, there was nothing said, we don't know what happened, and then all of a sudden he resigns, and then they fire 2 of his staff members. It leaves a really poor taste.
I know this is a crazy
mutually parted ways.
Yeah, is there a way that there could have been a suspension to Coach Arena? But
Definitely.
He said that I'm done.
Well, no, because I mean,
did you say that and I missed it? I was thinking.
No, I'm saying that they're more than likely would have been simply just a suspension in this situation.
From what I understand, and it kind of makes sense from what Bogert said, because if you remember when we had Bogert on, right, and when we asked him,
you held his feet to the fire.
Yes.
Well,
but we asked him, were you surprised? I don't know if it was me or if it was one of you guys. Are you surprised that Bruce announced his resignation? He goes, yes. From what I found out, the league was willing to just only suspend Bruce.
But yeah.
Now you learn
there's a lot more that's come out
about Richie's possible role in it, Kurt's role in it, and then those guys probably don't lose their jobs for potentially reporting workplace harassment. Do I really want to work with people that stab me in the back? No.
Yeah. Bruce is too prideful for that, and he doesn't. It's not like it's a gig he needs. He's established. He's been around a long time, and somebody else will give him an opportunity where he doesn't have to deal with
go back home to DC.
Yeah, being concerned with whoever it is that's in his office, or the people that he doesn't feel like he can trust to talk to anymore.
And I know that there's stories like this all over the world in all sports, but soccer seems to have these from time to time. Every season from time to time, but with all the intricacies of this one, does this stand out? This is a mess. It's an absolute mess.
It's messy, and I think a lot of times when you see things happen, there's not so many convoluted layers to it. There's a few things that have an effect here or a factor here, but this just seems like every twist and turn, there's another piece of it that comes out, and
Berhalter ran it part 2.
Yeah, and it's really weird. And
we knew more with that though.
And to that point, for me, and we say this all the time, like this is a massively important offseason for the Revs, but we talked about Balella earlier, like you need to hit the ground running. Like the cup is in a few weeks. Once that's over, there needs to be things happening in motion because the offseason is super short. Next year, once again, is going to be crazy with Leagues Cup again, Copa America's here. Like there's a lot of soccer to be played next season, and the worst part for the Revs would be going into next season with a little bit still some uncertainty in certain ways because once again, the team has potential. The team should, in talent-wise at least, has the ability to be up there in the Eastern Conference.
And we talk about this on our show all the time, is like soccer is such a niche sport and the people that follow it are so passionate about it. So if you're a Revolution fan, you're going to hear what these 3 put out last night and you're going to start questioning things now. So I think you're right. It's even more important to have a vision and a stance and make it immediately known what's going to happen.
Because you're not distracted by, regardless of whether people have thought the season was over for the last 2 months or not, they were still watching and you still had soccer to consume your brain.
Because there's a chance to win.
Now it's done. Now the fans are like, wait a minute. Now we need answers. Now we need to know what the hell's going to happen.
And not only is it done, just again to commend Tom and Seth and Sam, they have an established veteran player on record immediately after the game starting to air things out. It's
By the way,
wild move.
One of the tightest persons to Bruce too. So let's.
But also says he wants to stay in New England. So I mean, there you go. That should show you that if the players still have hope and believe that there's a core here that can.
There's something to believe in this roster.
But he said what we saw.
That's what I mean. So
he said what we saw too, though, is that the group here. This is why I'm postulating here, but this is why he would want to stay here because of the guys in that locker room and because of what he sees the potential is in New England. So, but again, I also think that maybe he felt that it was necessary to protect those guys to say, season's over, we can't win a cup, here's what you need to know.
And everybody that we've had on from MLS Season Pass with Apple TV, our guests every week, they all have said that this is a job that people want. Like, do not get it twisted. This is not something that has completely tainted the Revolution and what they have here as a core of their players. And there's still a prestige of being in New England, regardless of playing in a stadium that they shouldn't be in. But regardless, it's still a prestige to coach this team. And there is going to be somebody. There's going to be a lot of people looking to get that job, man. I'm telling you. And they might surprise some people next year.
Final thoughts, Andy?
Definitely unfortunate, because we talk about how talented this team is and where they were prior to Leagues Cup. I think the game 2 against Philly was literally the epitome of the season, and them coming out hot, and then the red card happens and things happen and just fall apart. At the end, you see the frustration of Carlos Hill and all these players because they've endured probably a lot more than they wanted to this year. And once again, bringing up the Galaxy, those players were just, by the time they got to the finish line, which was nowhere close to the playoff line, they were like, we just wanted this to be over. Everything was a mess from the beginning. We weren't getting answers. Greg Vanney had to come on and speak. So it's a long off season. The players, like you guys mentioned, they want to be here. There's a project that's with ambition, some really talented players. There's move to make these moves in the off season to bring other players in. Some people have to go, obviously, but there's something here, and it's unfortunate that you go from a supporter shield and things start progressing in the way they did. But final thoughts is, like I just mentioned, there has to be something concrete happening, and it has to be quick, because you need to put your foot down and say, this is the direction we're moving forward.
Off-season hot take. I'll give you mine first. I don't think Chan Kalai signs as a designated player. I think it's over. I think Chan Kalai came on here under the impression that he was going to play under Bruce. Bruce isn't here. Gustavo's not here. Does that kid really want to be here for a rebuild? I think Chan Kalai goes back home to Argentina and looks for a better opportunity. Anybody else?
I don't think it's a rebuild.
I don't think so either.
I think from a front office standpoint and from a
Off
coaching
the field,
staff, yes, that's a rebuild. That's a complete clean slate. But I don't think the team itself is going to change all that much.
It won't change all that much. But again, you are losing. Hold on. You might lose Vrioni. You're definitely losing Gustavo Bo as a designated player. They're not going to pay him as designated player.
But does
money.
he might come back a discount deal?
On a different deal.
I think he might.
He might.
I don't know. I think.
You think that's how he wants to go out if he has the opportunity to stay here?
I think he is left with a sour taste in his mouth with what has happened with Bruce. He's a big defender of Bruce. He was one of the very few players early on to post on Instagram telling everybody how much he loves Bruce. Mm-hmm. So, yes, I think that Argentinian connection is in danger of not being here next year.
I think that's going to come down to the players in the locker room talking to him too, though. If they want, like, if Carlos Hill wants him here, you know, and Andrew Farrell wants him here, Matt Polster wants him here, and they talk to him and say, hey, listen, you know, believe in what we have. And if Bolello goes out and shows them that they're going to have a reason to believe in their organization, then I think that he can be convinced to come back on a different deal and to give them another run, because you know he's only going to give you about half the season anyways.
But he's not, let's be honest about Gustavo anyways. He's not that healthy at this point.
He's not.
Why would you spend money on a guy that's not going to give you a full season?
He's a great option off the bench.
He's not. I wouldn't want him off the bench. He's not a guy
because
he's not a guy that can give you a full season at this point. Give me a guy that can give me a full season.
He might be able to if he's not.
It's a waste of money.
On a different
deal. It's a waste of money.
Here's my thoughts. My final thought is that when you look at the group of players on this roster and you look at the talent that was lost to injury and the potential of them to come back, I think that the Revolution, not just because this is a Revolution podcast, I think that going into next year, they will have one of the strongest starting 11 and potential bench. I think that what we talked about with off the field absolutely needs to get rectified by ownership. But my final thought, I want to end this as a former player. What these players had to endure this year to go out and perform every week. I know you don't think this out there, but because it's so mental, I give every single player from top to bottom just an extreme amount. I mean, it's so impressive to me to see what they have done, and it just scratched the surface of things coming out. In order to deal with what they've dealt with, it's so difficult to go out week in and week out and try your best. And I don't think that the effort was lost even in the back half of the season. So that's my final thought.
Off-season hot take.
I don't think I would like to see, obviously, I don't know who it's going to be, but the front office needs to, and the coaching staff absolutely needs to be handled immediately. But I do disagree with you. I think it's the majority of the players you see this season will be back here next year, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, my offseason hot take is it's going to get a lot hotter before it starts to cool off in Foxborough. I think there's going to be some more people speaking up. I think that it's going to really all come to a head, and I do think that they will clean house, and they're going to bring in a whole new staff, but still able to keep that core, and they're going to surprise some people next year.
I think this is the first time we've ever done a 90-minute show.
We probably could have done 2.5 hours.
It's at 1:22 right now, an hour 22 minutes.
Oh, you could see that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you,
barely.
LASIK. Thank you, Kachai.
Why does that say that?
It says it right at the bottom by record. I can see everything now.
Oh,
and we almost made it through without any technical difficulties, but buttons, man, I don't know what the hell's
is what it is.
You almost swore once, but you pulled back. That was good.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
We have a green screen now, by the way, too.
we're working on that, too.
Andy, thanks for coming in from Los Angeles, California.
First in-studio guest, longest show. Shout out to you,
man.
Andy.
We set the bar super high. Thanks
he
for having
does.
me. Big fan of the show. I'm happy to be home and happy to be here with you guys.
You're always welcome in here.
Of course, always.
This...
Now, what are we going to do, Tom?
So this is probably the plan. We have more shows to do. I wouldn't expect a regular podcast, but we'll be doing special episodes, and I'll leave it there.
We can't just come fill air for an hour every week if there's not much going on. I do anticipate there being plenty going on, though.
I anticipate there'll be a couple of more episodes.
There'll be a few more.
We'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
You know how they say, like, white Christmas when it snows? It could be a whiteboard Christmas, man.
It could be a whiteboard.
Just saying.
Oh,
just
no,
saying.
Andy.
And we end the show here.
Let's
Bye.
go.
End the show there.